Our topic for today in English language is figure of speech. What is figure of speech? A figure of speech is a phrase or word having different meanings than its literal meanings. It conveys meaning by identifying or comparing one thing to another, which has connotation or meaning familiar to the audience. Please understand that language can be used in two ways, literally and figuratively. Literal language is direct and uses the real definition and meanings of words and phrases. But when we talk figuratively, the meaning of any word/phrase will depend on the context in which they are used. A figure of speech relies on such figurative language and rhetoric. When using figures of speech, the words will diverge from their literal meanings, to give a more stylized and specialized meaning to these words. Let us take for example the phrase, fast like lightning. This phrase merely implies great speed. It does not mean literally as fast as lightning. Example, on hearing the school bell the kids ran out of the class as fast as lightning. Now let's consider the types of figures of speech. There are many types of figures of speech, but we will consider a few of them with detailed descriptions. 1. Personification. It occurs when a writer gives human traits to non-human or inanimate objects. It is similar to metaphors and similes that also use comparison between two objects. For instance, hadn't she felt it in every touch of the sunshine, as its golden fingertips pressed her lids open and wound their way through her hair? 2. Simile. A simile is a figure of speech that uses comparison. In a simile, we use two specific words like and as to compare two unlikely things that actually have nothing in common. This is done to bring out the dramatic nature of the prose and invoke vivid images and comparisons. It is one of the most common forms of a figure of speech and is used in everything from day-to-day talk to poems. Let us see some examples of simile. She is as brave as a lion. Here you will notice a girl and her bravery are being compared to a lad. This is an unusual and illogical comparison, but it brings out the vivid imagery and lyrical quality in the sentence. 3. Metaphor. A metaphor is a word or phrase used to show its similarity to another thing. It helps to explain an idea, but if you take a metaphor at its literal meaning it will sound absurd. An example of a metaphor is Alex is a chicken. Literally, this sounds so very absurd. But this is a metaphor which suggests that Alex is a coward, or frightened. It compares or implies that Alex is a chicken to bring out the symbolism. Some other examples are love is a battlefield, all the world's a stage, that technology is a dinosaur, etc. 4. Hyperbole. Hyperbole in the Greek language translates to excess. And that is what it does, it exaggerates. We use hyperboles to emphasize the importance or overstate something. This exaggerates claims and statements are never meant to be taken at their literal meaning. They are used to create a strong and lasting impression. An example would be since he has been away from home he has gotten as thin as a toothpick. Obviously, he has not gotten as thin as a toothpick, we only exaggerate to emphasize on how thin he has become. Some other examples are, those shoes cost a king's ransom, for the millionth time, clean the kitchen, his grandfather is older than the hills. 5. Onomatopoeia. This is a figure of speech where words or phrases indicate sounds. Often to bring about more imagery and better describe a setting, authors use words to involve all five of our senses. Onomatopoeia refers to those words that imitate the sounds of an object or person. For example, the bees buzzed around in the garden. Here the word buzzed is indicating the sound coming from the bees. Some other examples are the leaves were rustling, the door was squeaking, he closed the book with a thud, etc. We have come to the end of today's lesson. I'm sure you have learned a lot today. See you next class. Please follow us on social media for more lessons from Bemilly Tutorials at Bemilly TV on Facebook, Instagram and YouTube. You can email us for personal content, bemilly@gmail.com.